Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
Dr. John Kasarda, director of the Kenan Institute of Private Enterprise, has written a new book entitled Aerotropolis. The book examines the transportation of airports from the periphery of modern cities to the center of urban areas. North Carolina BookWatch host D.G. Martin recently had the opportunity to catch up with Dr. Kasarda for a discussion about his book and an update on the Global Transpark in Kinston.
Professor John Kasarda's new book, Aerotropolis, The Way We'll Live Next, has just hit the bookstores. We're talking about it a lot. It's gotten a lot of great reviews. Dr. Kasarda is the director of the Frank Hawkins Kenan Institute of Private Enterprise, part of the Kenan Flagler Business School at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He's known really throughout the world as the leading consultant on this Aerotropolis concept, which has to do, Dr. Kasarda, with the way airports and cities grow together, whether we like it or not.
That's absolutely the case, and the weather or not has been a controversial issue, but basically airports are driving a good deal of business location and urban development around the world, and we want to make sure that that's economically efficient, attractive, and ultimately sustainable environmentally.
Well, I'm looking forward to having you as my guest on North Carolina BookWatch sometime soon, but right now North Carolinians are still talking about our airports, and in particular the Global Transpark, and you were a part of the visioning of that that enterprise, and it's had its struggles. Can you give us an updated report on what's happened recently and what the prospects for the future are?
Okay. Well, it's quite true. There were struggles, primarily because of its relative isolation from interstate highways that they have been working on and connectivity to the port, which they have solved through a rail link. And there was some mighty swings for home runs, and they missed the fastball down the plate. The hub for FedEx, which went to Greensboro, and then when Boeing wanted to assemble its 787, the new Dreamliner, it came in second to Everett, Washington, but it finally struck. And had not just a single, but I would say at least a triple, in some mind a home run in Spirit Aerosystems, which originally was Boeing, spun off from Boeing, that is the largest equipment manufacturer and assembler. They set up their facility for the new Airbus A350, which is the counterpart, Airbus's counterpart to the Dreamliner, in Kinston, where they're manufacturing the fuselage, the main compartment that people sit, and the wings for this all-composite advanced aircraft.
Have these developments given it the traction that it needs, or does it need a little more before you can really say it's on the road?
Well, certainly it's given it a good deal of traction. There were over 300 areas that competed for this facility, and they settled on Kinston, so that gave credibility to the site, and now the suppliers are coming in, and the logistics service providers such as Schenker, a German firm that provides parts and components, are locating in Kinston. So there's a very strong signal that this is a location that business is interested in, and they chose it. There have been incentives involved, but there's always incentives involved, and the competitors provided incentives. So the Spirit Aerosystems is a very, very important step forward for Kinston and the Global Transpark.
What are the relative competitive advantages and disadvantages that the Global Transpark airport has versus its colleagues and competitors in the region and worldwide?
Well, let me start with the advantages, because there certainly are disadvantages, and those disadvantages have been creating some problems to date and may in fact continue to do so in the future. The advantage is that it is a airfield that has tremendous opportunity for development on and around it in terms of space and zoning, and now increasingly the connectivity, surface connectivity. But that in the past has been a real problem, because it was at least 45 minutes from the nearest interstate, and that's very important for the movement of cargo. The battle for air cargo is on the ground. It is not a major market in its own right, so getting origin and destination shipments pose the real high mountain for it to overcome. It's a poor part of the state. Many people say if you went east of I-95, some 3 million population, it'd be the poorest state in the nation if you just took that component, despite Wilmington and the Outer Banks and the wealth that's along that strip. So it wasn't located in Charlotte or Raleigh-Durham or Greensboro that had some of these major market advantages. I would say the most difficult challenge, though, was the surface connectivity to the highways, and that is being worked on now through types of limited access roadways that will connect the Transpark to these interstates.
At best, what could it, looking at it 10 or 15 or 20 years from now, what might we see if we hit a home run or two?
Well, I think we need more than one, because I think the skeptics will always be there until that second major sighting happens. But the fact of the matter is that with the military air bases nearby, and these are military bases nearby, some 5 of the largest in the country, and much of the command shifting to Fort Bragg, the opportunity to provide logistics to the military is immense, and I think that's going to be a future. It is developing a core for aerospace. They're setting up not just a research and training center, but a composites a development center there, along with the manufacturing of these parts and components. So I would fully expect to see aerospace grow, and that's a sunrise industry. It's an industry that will be very important in our future, and it's located a very important and growing facility at Kinston.
Well, Dr. Kasarda, Dr. John Kasarda, thank you for your balanced but basically optimistic report on the future of the global Transpark. Thank you very much.
Podcasts on UNC-TV.org are made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.